Yeehaw! Welcome to Coffee and Pan Dulce, Wednesday morning, early January. I have no idea what the date is.
It is the 8th. It's been a week since our first show.
Thank you, Jenny. We are here at Casa Cano in beautiful South Charlotte with the master of ceremonies, the master of the House of Ill Dispute, the most disputatious Christian Cano. Please welcome us today.
Thank you.
Bravo.
I don't know if anyone noticed, but our flag is flying upside down today. I'll explain why I flew it upside down today. I'm sure you guys know.
Yeah, no, I know.
Design flaw, perhaps?
Somewhat. I had to look it up because I wanted to make sure that it wasn't disrespectful.
Yeah.
That it wasn't like a protest or anything. It was just more. Anyway, I guess we'll talk.
Anyway, I do miss the taco.
The taco was good. The taco was really good.
Well, I was going to put the taco back up, but then I decided because of what's going on,
right. A little bit has changed in a week.
Yeah, it's changed.
Yeah.
Well, listen, thank you very much. Welcome to Coffee and Pan Dulce. I'm Christian Cano with our co-host. Our other co-host, Mama Ruth, is not with us today. She is at a retreat.
Yeah, a retreat.
Some type of,
it's with a Presbyterian church here in town, and I don't remember the name. I ran into her the other day, and she told me about this, and it's basically to help people with health care, and it's a workshop to set up all the planning for the year. So she's basically going to be there pretty much all day. It's a lot of hard work, and you know, she is a community activist. She does do a lot of things for a lot of people, but
she does.
She doesn't advertise or wear on the sleeve because she's not a performative activist. She actually does what she says she's going to do, and she works in a lot of different intersections of Charlotte, and we're so proud of her. And it is an amazing opportunity for
girl. Hold on, we got two things today. Welcome to Coffee and Pan Dulce. Today is January the 8th, 2020. This is our second show of the year. I want to welcome you to those who are watching us on Facebook Live, those who will be watching us later on YouTube and also on Facebook as well. So welcome. I actually decided to try Pandora. We usually use, Amazon Prime instead of Pandora. Just to see if it was, I don't know if anyone would notice. So Alexa, stop.
I kind of like that.
It was good.
So there are. So you know, when we go big, we've got like three possible music sponsors. We could do Pandora, Amazon Prime, and or iHeartRadio. Alexa carries all three of those. Anyway.
I think Alexa's about ready to start.
Never mind. Alexa, stop, because she'll start following us. All right. So welcome, and we have a show today that is interesting. I guess we're going to talk about one major thing, but before we do that, I need to share us like we always do, and we'll start from our right. Slow down a little bit because there's only three of us, so it takes me a little bit of time. Start from our right because you're always right.
Hi.
Button, name, you know how it works.
Jenny-Jaymes Gunn, she, her, they, them pronouns. I have a bunch of buttons today, a bunch of swag. Love wins because love always wins, and my LGBTQI movement is all about love. My national organization of women board member button, of course, Tear Along, and let's see, my impeachment button provided to me by Mr. Christian Cano, and Too Woke to Smoke is my last one, the little black button at the top. I got that at Black Charlotte Pride this last summer, and just basically saying, hey, don't start if you don't have to, and be healthy.
Good rule.
Yeah.
My name is Jeff Scott, El Hombre del Pueblo. I'm a man about town. I am here with my WikiLeaks mug. Want to keep in mind that Julian Assange is still in jail in Belmarsh prison, and there are a lot of activities around the world, especially in Britain and in Australia, that are aiming to free him and make sure he's not extradited to the United States. I have a button today, and the button is David Bowie's Ziggy Stardust, because as you know, 4 years ago on January 10th, 2016, the great musical genius David Bowie died, and he was sort of a lifelong influence on me starting in high school. I really liked his music. Saw him live a couple of times. Sort of got lost during the middle period of his career, you know, when he was doing a lot of different things. But going back and listening to his parts of the catalog that I missed is pretty eye-opening. He did a lot of great and wonderful things. So
excellent. Interesting.
So,
I didn't realize it seems like it was just. Yeah, you're right. It's been 4 years.
Yeah, 2016.
And we lost a lot of.
Right around his, I think, 69th birthday.
We lost a lot of really. We could have like a whole show on that. Musicians of the last Prince. Yeah. Michael Jackson's been. You know how long ago that's been?
That's been almost 10 years.
Yeah, is that incredible? Whitney?
Yeah.
Well, sometimes
Whitney's been longer.
Yeah, sometimes we mention both Prince and Michael Jackson in the context of when we're talking about the prohibition crisis and what people have to do to get the drugs that they need. In the case of Prince, he bought fentanyl or whatever he got was laced with bad stuff because he couldn't get a good supply, and Michael Jackson was shopping around for prescriptions and
wow, that's wow, lots happened.
Yeah.
Or the 2000s, 2010s, I guess that's what it would be. It was a crazy decade. Well, listen, welcome to Coffee and Pan Dulce to bring you down this morning.
Yeah.
I want to welcome everyone who's joining us. And in case you're not, well, first, let's salute to Coffee and Pan Dulce.
Okay.
So, salute. Oh, that one almost spilled. Once again, our Pan Dulce is, it's some bread as well, but we want to thank Manolo's Bakery, who's our sponsor for Pan Dulce. Manolo's Bakery is on Central Avenue. Don't forget to put your orders in for your Mardi Gras cakes, the King's cakes, I believe is what they're called.
Yeah.
So put your orders in, or just go there anyway, just to spend all kinds of money. So get your pan dulce, tamales, tres leche cakes, all that wonderful stuff. So help yourself. There's also just some cinnamon bread and some other stuff in there as well.
I'll have a piece of cinnamon bread.
Yeah, please. Can you hand me a piece of, on the, just whatever you want to do, Jenny. So welcome. Today we wanted to talk about a lot of things, but as many of you know, there were some attacks on some military bases in Iraq last night, late last evening. All kinds of responses from from people. We want to kind of talk about that, how you guys feel about that. I was right about to start watching the movie The Joker that I had rented from Redbox, and right when I did that, I saw the breaking news, and I said, "Oh my goodness gracious!" And it felt very similar to the way I felt when after 9/11, when we attacked Iraq. I think it was Iraq we attacked.
Iraq
it was this
first.
awkward feeling. There's admittedly a curious feeling, like, oh my God, look at this. Like you're playing asteroids or something, and then you realize these are actually people at the end of the missile or the bomb or whatever the case may be. So it kind of felt weird, and I couldn't watch the movie until after I had seen enough, and then I said I can't. And then of course I saw the tweet from Trump that we'll talk about later on. So tell us how you feel, and that's why I'm flying the flag upside down. Flying the American flag upside down means that the country is in distress. Some people fly it to kind of let people know that there's something wrong. Right. There are people that do fly it, I don't know if they do it as a protest, but just to let them know that they feel like the country is in a distressful type of thing. I'm flying it because I feel like we are in a kind of distressful environment at this moment. So
there's no doubt that we're in a distressful moment. For one, the financial burden that the 9/11 wars for profit caused, when you spend $6.4 trillion that we know of without even knowing what off-book money we spent, but just that financial impact that we are going to be paying interest on it way past we're long gone. I mean, like our kids and grandkids.
Interesting you say that, because I don't think, and I know you know, because you're anti-war and your party is about the wastefulness of that kind of money.
Yeah.
I think it's like $6.4 trillion that we have spent, taxpayers have spent on post 9/11 conflicts, and
unnecessary conflicts too. I mean,
I think people have a hard time understanding That's it. How much that really is? That is
What 6,400 billions? So you're talking about. I mean, if you know, we were at the height of the spending and the height of the two-front war that we fought. We were spending over $1 billion a day on top of our normal military budget. So what people don't realize, that $6.4 trillion is on top of the military budget. That was extra money for fuel, for hazard pay, for defense contractors, for all the Blackwater stuff.
For bribing foreign leaders.
Yeah, I mean, greasing the wheel. I mean, we spent an inordinate amount of money to supposedly chase down one dude that we knew where he was from 2005 on, and it was the most expensive manhunt in world history, and when we could have just put pressure on Saudi Arabia and peacefully done this and gone and extracted him. In fact, if we just would have told him, hey, you don't get to pump any more oil, and we just shut Saudi Arabia down, I would imagine he would have had a little bow in his head and been dropped right off the White House lawn. And the same with this Iran thing is that all of a sudden we just need to kill this general. Like it's just some kind of world emergency, and I'm going, oh, Trump's been president for 3 years. This general's been around for quite a while. Why now? Why now all of a sudden did we need to kill this one guy? And now it's become this divisive, polarizing crapola of an idea.
I want Jeff to talk about that really quickly,
Yeah.
but just to put things in perspective, as we always try to do, $6.4 trillion. We have 1.3 million active duty professional military right now. We're not talking about reserves or whatever. Active duty, 1.3 million active duty. We could pay them this year a salary of a little over $4 million each. That's how much $6.4 million. We could actually pay 1.3 million military individuals, professional individuals, over $4.3 or $6 million just for this year only. That's how much money that is. So, Jeff.
Well, so the question of money and how much we've spent and how much we've wasted is a very interesting question, right? So, and one of the things that, one of the ways in which I view this whole adventure that we've been on since 9/11, and really before, but 9/11 is sort of the starting place for a lot of people, is that if you understand the idea of what they call in the corporate world vendor financing, a company sets up a large financial arm of whatever widgets it's trying to sell consumers, and then it lends consumers money
to get the money back
to buy their products. So so GM will do that with cars. Best Buy will do that with laptops or whatever.
And what's that term?
Get it. Well, it's just vendor financing, right? So
Okay.
you're a vendor, but you want to make sure your customers have money. So you set up a financing arm and you borrow cheap money from some government agency or in the private market if rates are low, and so they buy your stuff. I view our military and what they do around the world as a giant vendor financed war machine. Okay, so when you talk about Eisenhower and the military industrial complex speech and what's really going on about with our foreign adventurism and the military contractors, we know that our Secretary of Defense is former Raytheon, right?
Yeah.
So it's pretty clear if you look at the stocks of Lockheed and Raytheon leading up, they've done very well, and they've enriched themselves.
So that's what Stony Rushy calls the investment class of both the Republicans and the Democratic Party, who are so war hawks and pro-war. They're the investment class.
That's right. Yeah. And so just to wrap this point out, I know neither one of you disagree with me on this point, right?
So a few things we universally agree on there.
So then the question is, well, how would anybody really defend that, right? How would anybody, even a Republican, because it was Eisenhower and some of the other Republicans that were saying this is really kind of a con job, right? So when you think of our foreign policy expenditures, all the monies that we're giving to the Middle East, the money that the Saudis are spending here, the petrodollars. We're giving them defense products. We're giving them hardware and software and logistics and stuff like that. And training. And in turn, they're spending a lot of money here, and it's benefiting that class of people around Washington, D.C. So just look at the real estate values in Washington, D.C. over the last 10 years, and it will blow your mind.
It is.
Okay.
No, it's mind-boggling.
So anyway, that's kind of the way that I view this empire mission. Now, the question of Soleimani, and then the attacks last night. This is scary. It's very upsetting. I was literally just on Twitter, burning my eyes out for 3 or 4 hours last night, and trying not to be furious with flag-waving nut jobs who think that anytime anybody attacks us, it's an insult against our dignity.
Well, and they start playing the Lee Greenwood song, proud to be an American and God bless America, and this false patriotism, this nationalism that is so scary, because when you get swept up in a fervor like that, you can get lost in the practicality of saying, why are we doing this?
That's
and when we don't have an honest, transparent discussion, like we didn't have it after 9/11 happened.
Right.
We had firemen going, "Go get him, George," and we had the Congress being very complicit in this war mongering.
If you're not with us, you're against us.
Correct, and I'm going. And a lot of this comes from people that have never served, have never paid the price of war, and I can tell you, my family has, and I don't want war. I do. I have a 21-year-old son.
Right. So
I do not want us to get into a protracted war with Iran and their
allies.
They've got some powerful allies.
Well, let me just say that to wrap up my point about being on Twitter, one of the things I was tweeting last night, at least a couple of times, was the fact that most Americans believe exactly what you just said. I mean, 2/3 of veterans, almost 2/3 of the public think that the war in Iraq wasn't worth it. So here we are, 20 years later. They know about the lies. They know about the propaganda. So who is this holdout of people that think we should continue to throw good money after bad? It's Tom freaking Tillis and it's Mario freaking Rubio. Okay. So who they're
Lindsey
the
Graham.
one, and Lindsey Graham.
Who immediately?
How could I leave out Lindsey Graham?
Yeah. How could you leave out Lindsey Graham?
Lindsey Graham.
That's right. Well, interesting you say that, Jeff, and I think we're all in agreement on we are against war as much as we can.
At all costs.
I mean, I understand the reasons you have to protect yourself and so forth, and I understand that. And like many of y'all, I have family members that are in the military.
That's right.
I also have family members that are from all aspects, and so we obviously value their service to our country, but everyone serves our country in different ways. Yeah. You could serve our country as a teacher, as a firefighter, as whatever you do.
One job's not any more important than the other.
Exactly.
And that's one of my arguments is I'm not anti-military as somebody that has a father that's a retired officer and highly decorated wounded warrior, that he paid the ultimate sacrifices. We don't want another generation of broke young adults, and both mentally and physically. This is the wrong path to go on to, no matter what argument is. When somebody has not attacked us, we're not defending. We're not using our defense department for defense. Yeah, that's my problem.
Sure, that's a good point. But to your point, and I think most people understand this, and I think we're a lot more comfortable now saying things because right after 9/11, there was an entire decade, probably maybe up until just a couple of years ago, because Trump actually ran as an anti-war person.
Great nations do not fight endless wars.
Yes,
he said that.
And so it's really interesting. But there's so much hypocrisy about people who support Trump, who still today support Trump. A lot of hypocrisy. Yeah. But it's interesting. and Democrats and Libertarians and people who are running against them in 2020 need to use their own words against them.
Exactly.
So people like Dan Bishop,
Yeah.
whose son is hiding out in college and not going to war,
Right.
but yet Dan Bishop is acting like he's this pro-war kind of guy. Well, if you're so pro-war, send your son to war.
Yeah.
If you're pro-war, tell us, go to war. Or join the military, join the reserves.
Yeah.
It's maybe a little too old, like many of us. But it seems like these people, especially the Trump supporters that are, I don't know how they're suddenly turned pro-war now, or at least since last night.
Well, yeah. So
what is their thinking?
okay. So this is a
You're gonna be
puzzle,
expert,
right?
yes.
This is a puzzle, and I don't pretend to be an expert on it, but we come in contact with Republican neighbors and friends all the time, and people who are very uneasy about Trump. Even in their support of Trump, they're very uneasy. And you can go to these Driggs meetings, right? And they're like, Trump, maybe, they're because they were even during the primaries.
They're just like, let's just get through this.
That's right. But let's just hope this is over soon.
It's like really bad psych. Let me just get through this.
But
I'm sorry.
But the thing
That
that bothers me the most is is this militarism, right? It's this tribal flag waving stuff that once hostilities break out, they just lose their minds, and they can't think beyond the scale, right?
Well, but we've romanticized war, and we gloss it over because of John Wayne movies, which he didn't serve himself either, which is ironic. And in fact, the communists that he attacked, and was so anti-communist, which is ironic. Most of the communists were actually served in the military, and we come to find out.
Yeah, but Jenny, don't you understand? And I think we briefly talked about this when we were pouring our coffee this morning. That if you look at the individuals since last night, and I'm sure many of them are on social media, it's as if though they're excited, like they're playing a video game or something.
Yeah.
There is some. It's like a high school or middle school seeing someone fight. Like, oh, a fight. It's very middle school, high school.
We've romanticized war too much in our country, and we with movies like Rambo and Iwo Jima and Pearl Harbor.
But we do because it's not real.
Well, it's not real to them.
Can't just.
And here's the thing: we do have to separate the rank and file fool that's out, waving his flags and going, "God bless America," and the investor class, oligarchy of our country that's going, "Oh, excellent! We're gonna make a shit ton of money off this." So there's two different classes.
No, I think to be fair, you're leaving out people who say that. No, we have to have this defensive posture. We know that there are nuts who are flag waving and are going to support us right or wrong, and we know that there's this investor class. But there are plenty of Republicans and Democrats and even libertarians who are just saying, well, look, they attacked our embassy, or whatever the rationale is, that they're going, we need to have peace through strength, and I mean strength, not just sort of pacifism and stuff like that.
Let's talk very briefly. We want to thank the people that are watching us. We've got several people watching us. I want to thank Christian Eric from Washington, D.C., Janice Covington, Mark Jarrell, other people that are watching us, Philip from Texas. But interestingly, and I know this is the minutia that a lot of people don't understand or have a difficult time. Where we were before this assassination, because that's what I call it. It was an assassination of this military general. That's what it is. Where we were before in Iraq, and this is something that you were very, very good on the campaign trail in 2018, talking about international, those type of issues. And I will say, when I ran against Pittenger in 2016, one of the things that he had, one of the advantages that he had that did very well in the east part of our district, which is very military, Fort Bragg, that area, is he talked about international issues a lot. I talked about domestic issues. In 2016, that worked very well for him. Trump talked about domestic issues only. sometimes when we start talking about international issues, people it's all like a phase. They just want to talk about domestic issues.
Right.
But internationally, my understanding is, and y'all can correct me, is before the assassination, Iraq and Iran have had a long history of conflict with each other.
Oh.
So before we overthrew and took Saddam Hussein out, that disrupted the balance of the conflict that they had between each other. And there were Iraqi citizens before, my understanding is, they were protesting, they were celebrating, they wanted Iran out of Iraq because they're trying to get influence into Iraq. So they were actually celebrating the Iran being out of there. So interestingly, if Trump had done nothing, the Iraqi citizens were actually working to help us get our troops out because they were championing things, the reasons why we were there. When that happened, not only did it unify the Iranian population, which many of them are believe in Western modernization, especially the younger individuals. It unified them the way war, whatever unifies us. But now the Iraqi parliament has voted for us to get out. So now both of them are against us. So we're actually worse, and it's a more dangerous spot than we were before.
Well, that's a great point, and draw the comparison in the early 1990s when we got involved with Desert Storm. And was going in there to liberate Kuwait. You know, Iraq invaded Kuwait, and the Saudis wanted us in there to push them back, you know, above the 38th parallel. And so we went in there and did our job, but we were an invited guest. Every Persian Gulf country wanted us in there. They were like, we need you in here. We want you in there. We know that you can easily push Iraq back. Because they, at that time, had the 5th largest standing military in the world at that time, and so, and then compare it to now, where every time we get a wild hair, we're going and interfering in Persian Gulf politics and Middle East politics,
which is so out of the order, which is so against what Trump
and to go and assassinate a general that's been sitting there since Trump took his oath of office. And now all of a sudden he's an emergency. Now all of a sudden he's a priority.
So the Republicans, to play devil's advocate, what the Republicans were saying, my understanding is, because I've been trying to watch them, and you probably have been following them, is the reason that he was assassinated, and Trump, of course, can't verbalize he was available, so we took him out. They're spinning it and saying he was planning an attack on Americans. There was an imminent threat, and that's the reason that he was attacked.
Was those planes stored where the weapons of mass destruction were in Iraq? I mean, come on.
So my favorite new oxymoron, you know what an oxymoron is: jumbo shrimp, military intelligence. My favorite one is it's been imminent for decades.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, so someone used that. It's clearly not imminent. There's no. And this has already been fairly debunked if you listen to Ron Paul at all, and you listen to some of the other, even some of the progressive analysts are going, where's the imminence? So no one sees that. So the thing about the assassination was one thing. If we keep going back and back further in history, we get into this historical rabbit hole where we're going to be talking about a lot of issues. But I do want to say at least one thing that this whole Republican Guard, the Iranian protectorate, the army, was designated by our government as terrorists. And the reason they did that was so that they could have this fig leaf of legal permission to go in and take out this guy.
Sure.
So
therein lies the problem.
But he's actually a state actor. He's not a terrorist. He is a representative of the people in the government there, and we took him out.
But that's the whole problem. That is the whole damn problem, is that we keep putting the label terrorist on somebody so it gives us permission to go shoot somebody.
Now, two Trumps, and I thought it was kind of silly because Trump's got this obsession with Obama. Even 3 years, Obama is not the president. Obama is not the president. Everyone has to repeat this. Obama's not the president. Trump is the president. Trump still thinks Obama's the president, and he's obsessed. It's like a man crush. But he said,
it probably could be.
But he said,
or maybe some envy.
Orange is the new black.
he said,
That's good. That's a good reference.
He
right
said
there.
Obama and
More ways than
Obama, under the Obama administration, they're the ones that labeled them a terrorist.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's like, well, he did it. I just took him out for him, so to speak.
But that's not even true. That's not even true. And on top of that, Obama's administration is the one that got the Iranian nuke deal.
Yes.
Which was a brilliant move. And I said,
very dangerous.
And now they pulled out of it. And
then, of course, there's so much misinformation.
We are in the fog of war.
Yes.
It's been less than 24 hours since
right.
all this stuff started happening. So we have to be fairly careful and cautious about the things we say, but with the motives and what we think's happened just in the last 24 hours.
There are probably, in Congress right now, and even before Congress, there are probably 4 of the wackiest conspiracy people in Congress. And we have one of them, Dan Bishop.
Yeah.
He is wacky. He is, for an attorney,
he's wacky.
He's wacky.
He is.
But he's wacky
He
on
could be
purpose.
wacky because he is an attorney.
I think he actually, sits at home with some old fraternity guys, playing Dungeons and Dragons, and putting his toupee on, going, this is great, this is wonderful. I mean, he's a little off balance.
My favorite insult for him is to call him a legal scholar.
Well, that's true, but he's one of those.
Or is that an insult to legal scholars? Because
he is spreading.
Bathroom Dan.
He is continuing this Infowars stupid stuff like Obama gave them. The Iranians so many $1 billion and this that's been debunked for I don't know how long. That was
actually Iranian money.
It was Iranian money. It was Iranian money that was being held. It was their money.
Right. No,
they
just
allowed
right.
Out.
And if you just to recall the 2019 race and all the things he said about Gary McFadden and the ICE raids and the power, of the state government and the federal government to do whatever it is that they wanted to get him to comply to get the sheriff to comply extra constitutionally to this DHS piece of paper from some administrative judge.
Jeff, we weren't going to talk about this.
Ridiculous.
We were going to talk about this because we were going to talk about this, but I really wanted to talk about the NFL coach, the new coach for the Panthers, and the stadium and so forth. But we decided to talk about this. Okay. But to the point,
we can get to that point.
Yeah, no, but to that point, we have one of the wackiest, really craziest conspiracy, which is why he fits perfect with Trump because he feeds into that. There, admittedly, in our district, even though it's a new district, we've added one county. We took Cumberland County off for this next election. Yeah, he is right now. He's openly still running like he did in 2019 with the clowns using the be clowns, and he's going to do all. He's going to run crazy and wacky
against Cynthia.
Whoever wins the Democratic nomination.
Oh yeah,
and
there's 3 running in there.
Yeah,
I did not realize.
So whoever, and he's going to one of the benefits of I hope Cynthia gets the nomination. One of the benefits of her is it's going to be difficult for he hates, like Trump, he hates women of color.
Yeah.
He's got this obsession with women of color. I don't know if they turned him down when he was in college or high school, but he's got this obsession with women of color or just people of color. He's a white nationalist. I mean, by his actions and what he does, he obviously supports that theory. So I think we have to call, just as the Steve Kings and all those other individuals, the guy from Ohio, the crazy guy that says the crazy stuff, I think we can't be polite anymore to these wacky, crazy people, and we've got to call them crazy, wacky people. So whoever's running against them and people in our district, we've got to call these crazy, wacky people out because they're crazy and wacky.
Well,
they're dangerous.
It depends on your mood, right? So Dan Bishop tweeted last night that this is going to be a great outcome and good prospects, and it's like, well, that means nothing. That's just an empty statement. You have no idea what if there's a plan or if they're just impetuous or whatever they're reacting
Sounds
to.
like he did a grand opening for a business or something. I mean, great prospects.
So,
I'm like,
so I think it's appropriate. I think it's appropriate to pin someone like that down and say, be specific. Do you want to end regime change? Do you want to bring the troops home? Do you want to stop porting our soldiers over to new places? Do you think this whole enterprise, like 2/3 of the public believes, has been not worth it, or do you think it's worth it? He is not specific. So when he's not specific, and just like Matt Ridenhour,
Sure.
not specific, can you tell us whether sanctions are an act of war or not? No, he can't say one way or another. If you're not being specific, you're bullshitting, right?
Well,
you're simply barreling through and hoping other people who are waving the flag behind you and putting on that Lee Greenwood song, whatever it is, you're just hoping for the fear factor people to rally around you. You're not using your head.
Okay. But here's one very important point, and we learned this lesson. I thought we learned this lesson from even Vietnam, is that we so much. If you're anti-war, you're anti-this, that you're anti-troop, you're anti-American. And so that's the only card that they can play is the patriotism / nationalism deal, even, whatever. But you can't, once you let loose the dogs of war, you can't unfuck that.
Yeah.
And one of our biggest things is we can't go back and do the reset button. In fact, Congresswoman Omar said, war doesn't have a reset button.
Exactly.
It does not have a reset fucking button.
So,
and if we're going to send our boys and girls out to foreign lands and let them bleed out, then we better damn well have a plan. We better have a reason for American security other than you get a wild fucking hair and you assassinate somebody that had no threat, no imminent threat. And that's the difference, and that's why some senators are like Tim Kaine are pulling up the War Powers Act and saying,
Senator Paul.
Yeah.
Saying, hey, time out, we need to ice this down. There's several, Rand Paul, Tim Kaine, are saying, we need a timeout before this escalates up to a full-blown catastrophic war.
So let's
cool this down.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, and even then, people on sort of the small L libertarian, small R Republican side who normally support Rand Paul, and I basically support his statement. He's talking about the troops that are in harm's way in foreign lands. He's not talking about the death and destruction of all the brown people there that we've been causing for decades. So he's not saying, let's come home before we kill a bunch of people unnecessarily for our own gratification, our own ego, our own vendor financing system, our own bomb makers. He's not saying that now. He has said things like that in the past, but I'm just making a point about his messaging. We want to protect our troops. We want to bring them home. We want to stop doing this. But in addition, there's a good reason. We don't want to kill a lot of people in other countries. That would be a good enough reason in itself.
Okay, so Jeff,
killing is wrong.
We have been talking since I've known you, and we've been talking about how impossible it is to move the Trump base, which is not very big, but they're so loyal to him. Yeah. No matter what he does, or whatever, they defend him and so forth. And Dan Bishop is a benefactor of that, which is why he feeds into it. Right. We've been talking about what can we do, and we've tried. Okay, let's talk facts. No, it doesn't work. Let's talk this. No, it doesn't work. I believe that we will look back at this moment, and this is an unforced error by Donald Trump. That this is, and if you're a strategist, if you're running for Congress, if you're running for federal office, or if you're running against someone who's a pro-Trump person, this is an unforced error to chip away at Trump supporters, because Trump-based supporters, white, working class, rural, many of them, most of them don't have college educations. They're working class. Ohio, Gaston County, Union County, most of them are not like Matthew Ridenhour, are not like Dan Bishop. They like Trump, but they also don't believe in wasting money on at wars. They believe in moving that money home. They're really anti-war. This is an unforced error that I believe can chip away at some of that. I don't think they're not going to support Trump, but I think their enthusiasm about Trump will be, this is an opportunity to chip away at some of that. It's an unforced error. This is a strategic, this is the only issue that I think that we've seen, and because it's in the election year,
Yeah.
I don't think people realize that there are many Trump supporters, and I have many of them in my family, that this is one of those issues that I could see us around the table actually agreeing on. This was ridiculous.
Well,
Why are we doing this?
our nation
Why
is
are we putting our
fatigued.
sons and daughters in this harm? Because
Where-
their sons and daughters are the ones that are serving in the military.
Yeah.
They went to the military
Right.
instead of going to college. They went to the military for a skill, for health care. It's usually the poor, working white, brown individuals that go. The investment class kids go to college, get their degree, and go in as an officer, so they're not in harm's way.
Right.
And then they come out and they run for office or Congress.
Well,
So-
and bringing that point back
Yeah.
around is the one reality is the now that we're almost 20 years into the this 9/11
Wow.
mentality.
Is that crazy?
I mean, next year is the 20th anniversary.
There are people that weren't even born.
We were in World War II for 4 years.
Yeah, and we Vietnam was 10, and I mean we have been in constant state of war. We occupy 82 countries right now out of
That's right.
162.
Nearly 1,000 bases.
We have 50% of the planet. We have some type of military force in it, whether it's a drone base, whether it's advisors, but we have a frontline force in 82 countries. Let that sink in for a while, because we didn't have that many countries occupied post World War II in 1946.
Okay, so Jenny.
So that's an incredible number.
So Jenny, we give a lot of free advice on this show and we don't get paid for. If you are a strategist, which we're probably better strategists than we are when we ran for office, but except you, I think you're both. But if you're a strategist and you were running a Democratic presidential campaign in 30 seconds, how would you use this? And I hate to say it like this because that's how would you use this to chip away at Trump supporters?
We can't afford the price of blood. We can't afford the price of war. It's time to end war.
So if I were a Democrat,
if you were a strategist, we were in a strategy meeting with the Democratic because their last debate before Iowa is next Tuesday.
Right. So I would do exactly what Tulsi Gabbard is doing.
Okay.
She's going on. She's saying, "Get the hell out. We don't need to be there. No more regime change. Bad mojo."
Okay. So by doing that,
Yeah.
the Dan Bishops, the Tom Tillises, and maybe even the Matthew Ridenhouers, and maybe even the Stony Rushings, those who are trying to hang on to that last, they're going to say,
dignity.
"You're not American. You don't understand this. This is so."
Well, I hope everybody sees through that, but we never underestimate the stupidity of the American voter. I mean, that's H.L. Mencken, I think.
Well,
So,
I mean,
or is it Mark Twain? I don't know.
Or-
Great American humorists have commented on
what's his name? The cowboy, Willis.
Mark Twain?
No. Anyway, I'll think about it. He was like the cowboy humorist.
Will Rogers.
Will Rogers.
Well, Roger, yeah.
That's right.
I mean, I think the reality is that hopefully by this time in the game that we have as an American people, as neighbors, that we realize we need to get out of this business once for all. The one upside of all this is this might highlight how short-sighted we've been in our military policy, and this may actually bring about change in a certain way. Because if Congress gets proactive, which even the Democrats, is kind of shame on them. I mean, they've kind of been asleep at the wheel on this a little bit.
True.
And I'll hold the House very, very, accountable for this. Is that there has not been enough proactivity in the Congress, both on Republicans and Democrats, about being anti-war. They have rubber stamped the last three presidents.
They are trying to pass a resolution as we speak.
Well, for war powers,
war powers,
Tim
right.
Kaine started that.
That's right.
But should have happened quite a while ago. I mean, especially since we killed, Bin Laden in May of 2011.
Yeah.
So next year will be 10 years. Next May, or a year from this May, will be 10 years that we killed Bin Laden. And we still expanded the military, both by Democrat and Republican regimes.
Let me say one thing. I think that both Tulsi and Bernie have been on message on this topic, and so I follow Bernie's feed, and I follow some of the things that are that he says in public that are posted, and Mike Gravel too, even though he's out of the race. I follow them. They are totally on message on the Democratic side, and let me just say, if there are a lot of young people out there that are going to be going, let me think. Bernie, anti-war socialism that wants to give us health care versus
and free school.
Mean SOB, capitalist, vendor financed, imperialist, orange man bad. I think I'm going to go with Bernie, anti-war socialist.
Exactly, Jeff. What you said was someone who has run for office and knows strategy.
Yeah.
We know in the primary, in the general election, there's people that demographically. Let's just take this district for example. We know that traditionally, in the primary, people 50, 60, actually 63 and older vote at higher percentages in a primary. Older individuals, which are probably more baby boomers, who are more likely to be anti-war because they grew up during the Vietnam era. We know the Gen X people, which is my era, the Dan Bishop era, they tend to be more pro-war because they were never in a war.
Right.
Desert
Storm.
Maybe
that was about a 30-day.
That's right.
But
bombing they vote at lower percentages in a primary.
Right.
They vote very lower percentages. And then we know that the Gen X, the millennials,
Y and Z,
they vote at a lower percentage, but they're the biggest voting bloc.
What's the interesting thing you're saying? Because
so the top and the bottom are anti-war.
Yeah.
The middle, not. But who's going to vote in the primary? Comes out to vote in passion? Are the older individuals anti-war? The Gen X individuals, which tend to be the Dan Bishop type of individuals, they're pro-war, but they vote at very low percentages. Right. And what you're saying is, if Bernie and individuals can inspire the largest voting bloc, I think they're going to do well with the young one. Yeah. They can.
Well, another thing too,
do a lot of damage.
Very important is that a lot of college campuses are just in a matter of 24 hours has seen a tremendous response about being anti-war. Because they're that age range, they're that 18 to 35 that's going, I've got friends that are about to go over, or they're in, ROTC in college, or they've been on the GI Bill, or whatever the case may be. Sure. They're afraid they're seeing themselves end up going to fight wars for old men, or they're going to themselves get trapped into this endless loop, and they're sick of it, and I'm hoping that energizes the young, Z and Y. I'm
glad you mentioned that, because even before this occurred, there is actually a movement across the country that is happening at almost every city around the country tomorrow. If you go on to social media or Move On or one of those, it is no war with Iran rallies that are actually occurring.
Tomorrow?
It's tomorrow. Yeah. I believe it starts at 5 p.m. at Trading Tryon here in Charlotte. Yeah. And it is a no war with Iran. It was scheduled before this already, but now I think they're expecting maybe even up to 500 to 1,000 people now. So those who are interested in standing up, and so to your point, this is I can see a lot of young people getting involved with this, and if you are against this, go on and see what events are being held in your city, but all around the country in America, it is occurring tomorrow. It's the No War with Iran rallies, and most of them are in the evenings.
So you do have to remember, though, at these rallies, they tend to be subverted by agents of influence, and I'm not wearing a tinfoil hat. I'm talking about actual history.
Not going to do it.
where protest movements are subverted by people in whether it's the FBI or local police departments. They go into these and they try to create violent circumstances, and so it's very difficult to run a peaceful protest when there are people in there trying to agitate for violence. And
I assure you, because I've been to many rallies on Trading Tryon, that there will be people probably speaking, and there will be maybe some Trump people. I don't know if there'll be Trump on this issue, because many of them, especially the deplorable ones, the deplorable pride ones that show up everywhere with the Trump flag,
Right.
they're really anti-war.
Yeah.
So I'd be shocked if they, but I do believe there will be some individuals that show up and, you're crazy, and the Jesus Saves guy will be there, of course.
Well, you'll have the Proud Boys probably will show
Jenny,
out.
Are you skeptical of my point that groups like the FBI infiltrate protest groups in order to agitate them to commit more violence?
That's a hell of a rabbit hole. But do I think we have intelligence agencies in our country that do stuff like that? I have no doubt that we do. Because
social media.
I don't know if it's as prevalent.
It is prevalent.
They
go after progressives.
Yeah. Well, vice versa. I mean,
this is their job.
Yeah,
this is their job. The FBI simply admitted this on camera, on television, that they want to keep anti-war movements down. They want to keep progressives out of office.
There's always been, and I know with the NSA and the CIA, they've always tried to keep the populace unstable, whether it's Egypt or the United States or wherever. That they always, if it's going one way or the other, if you keep people off kilter, and that's one of the things that has been in American policy, is that you can create more havoc.
Yeah.
And it's a great opportunity to take control, because in chaos, if you become the controlling or the calming deal, like in Egypt with the Arab Spring riots and all that, we created that deal. We do that in our country too. There's no doubt.
But to your point, this is exactly what I was talking about just a minute ago. Was this is an opportunity? This is a crack in the Trump base that chaos can be created, and I assure you that it's being done as we speak on Trump supporter websites, even on Matthew Ridenour's followers. That there are people that have infiltrated there, that they know this is an opportunity to create chaos, because you can't be a Trump supporter who supported him originally and agree with this, because you come across as a hypocrite. You can't, and so this is an opportunity to create chaos. So there will be some infighting within the Trump base, and this is an opportunity to destabilize. So if you are a strategist,
I don't agree with you.
I
think true Trumpsters. I think the true Trumpsters, and I'm talking about not the moderate Republicans, the ones that that have been pro-Trump because it's helped them.
Sure.
I think that those rats will jump off the ship, just like they were doing with impeachment.
Sure.
A lot of them are going, we're going to keep our distance.
Okay.
I think your true rank and file Trumpsters, whether they're in politics or they're just a regular citizen, they're going to ride and die with this guy. They're just like they did with Nixon. And I think they're going to go down with the ship. I mean, you still have people flag waving for Reagan
as long as you can diminish that population, as long as you can diminish
well, we'll never diminish that, because that's a small group. 20 about.
I tend to agree with that, because I met many of those people. They want to go down with the ship.
They will.
They want to quote. They want to ride it all the way.
But
down
that's a small. But that's a small
that's
group.
a quotation from a supporter.
Just like there was true followers or devotees of Obama that would never criticize him no matter what. Oh, he walked on water. He was perfect. He healed the sick. All that. That's a small. That's a smaller percentage of the overall voter, because there's the middle of the road voter that voted for Obama that also voted for Trump. I mean, because there's that swing vote, and those are the ones he's going to lose. He's going to lose. He's going to lose the factory worker. He's going to lose. That goes. That Obama helped, with all the 2009 reforms and things like that.
The woman Trump supporter whose son may be in the military.
Yeah, I mean, what Trump's going to lose is the middle. The people that was part of the Obama coalition then became part of the Trump coalition, and those are the ones who are selling. That 25% of the electorate that votes always conservative. No matter how hypocritical they are.
Not really conservative.
And there's a
difference between being the Trump and conservative.
Well, whoever is deemed as a conservative candidate. I mean, right now he is the standard bearer of the conservative flag.
Okay, so we have talked endlessly about this, and I wanted to say this because it reminded me.
Hour 2.
On New Year's Eve, I had some peanut brittle from a neighbor of mine. She makes incredible peanut brittle. And I bruised my tooth.
Oh.
I didn't know I bruised my tooth until we did our beer pong tournament. So thank you. By the way, we did very, very well in fundraising beer pong tournament. She was my partner. We surprised everyone in that place.
Yeah, they didn't expect much.
And Jenny was like, doop! And it was like, oh wow. People were like, oh my God, she knows. And Jenny was like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm just like, just whatever.
Throwing it out there.
And so that shows you the skill.
You have some hidden talents.
So I was really nervous.
Some can't be on camera either.
I was really nervous that I'd cracked a tooth. So I went to the dentist. I went to the dentist yesterday because I could barely chew from that side, and I eat. And apparently, you can actually bruise the nerves under your tooth as you get older.
Yeah.
And I bruised this tooth, and so I have to sleep with my guard in and drink pineapple juice because some pineapple does something with the nerve. I don't know.
So you bruised it while we were playing?
So
but I noticed it because I was
we had
cold
fries.
Beer. Yeah. We had fries, and I was like.
Yeah. So the great thing is because you were drinking beer, you can sue the beer industry.
Okay, this is a joke. So Dave Chappelle, I don't know if Dave Chappelle said this joke, but Dave Chappelle said, if you ever make a sex video, make sure you have Disney music in the background. So if it's ever released, the Disney lawyers will fight for you to get that taken down.
Well, especially you do like it's a whole new world. I mean, like
it's a whole new world.
Under the sea.
On that note, because we're going to go like 5 minutes over because this is really, really important. The Charlotte, the Charlotte.
And if anybody calls you a beast, I'll take them out.
All right, so
we're crackheads.
So
we need Ruth. We need balance.
Exactly. The Carolina Panthers hired a new coach.
Oh.
Why is this important? Is important. To me, the reason this is important, and there's a gentleman who follows me on my personal Facebook page and follow each other, and I had made a statement about how upset I was that the owner of the Panthers, who's the new owner, Temper, I really had hope that he would come in and change the way owners operate. That this plantation mentality, this is what I call it. They're older white men who own all these teams.
It's Tepper, right?
Tepper, that's right.
Okay.
And I was hoping him coming in would change that mentality. The National Football League, the majority of the fan base, ticket holders, and viewers are LatinX. That's data that just came out, which is why they're playing games in Mexico City to attract more Latinx individuals. The second one is African American, and the third one is women. So those three are like 3/4 of the fan viewer base of the NFL. But yet the head coaching and the offices don't reflect that.
It never has.
Now, the libertarian part of me, and I thought about you, said we have no business telling private owners who they hire, and I completely agree with that.
Yeah.
We have no business. If Hobby Lobby wants to hire all white men, that's their business.
Yeah.
If they're a private company, that's their business.
Yeah.
But the moment you ask for taxpayer money and you get taxpayer money, it's a different ballgame.
Strings attached.
Yes. And so the reason this is important is because he went outside of the NFL, which is another argument that I have.
Yeah.
You couldn't find, of all of the teams, of all the assistant coaches, all of the people that are mentoring to maybe be a head coach one day, you couldn't find one person.
Yeah.
You had to go outside to pluck someone from a college. It would be like someone going outside of your company when you have training programs in your company. And then I thought, well, and you couldn't find a person of color at any of the colleges or anything to bring into Charlotte to be a head coach. Not that being of color, I'm just saying is I was hoping they would bring some diversity, would reflect that. It didn't happen. So my upsetness was, I really don't believe in taxpayers paying for stadiums.
Right.
Because the owners just usually, there's no data that says that we benefit from that. But now I'm really against it because he went out and he hired this guy who had only been coaching. He coached 1 year as assistant coach for the New York Giants. He went to He coached at Temple University for 3 years, Baylor for 3. He's only been coaching for maybe 7 years, and brought him from outside to Charlotte. He coached at Baylor University, and because I went to TCU, I am being a little bit of bias, but Baylor is probably, and I think most people will agree, in the Big 12, one of the most bigoted, homophobic, and sexist. They had a big sex scandal 4 years ago, which is
it wasn't a sex scandal. It was a rape.
That's
rape
true.
deal. I mean,
He pulls this guy from that university to come to Charlotte, which is ground zero for civil rights, for injustice, and he's getting paid $70 million. Okay, don't dare come and ask us for money to build a new stadium.
Yeah.
Well,
in 30 seconds, how do you feel about that? Because we've gone over.
Well, I mean, obviously, it was a huge error when you take an unknown quantity and bring them in as a coach. It isn't like Dallas did with Jimmy Johnson 3 decades ago, where Jimmy Johnson won multiple national champions and built an incredible juggernaut of a team. And quite frankly, you knew he was going to do something good. Yeah. And the coach they had was way past his prime.
Don't talk about Tom Landry like that.
I love Mr. Landry, God rest his soul.
So, 50 more seconds.
But
how do you feel?
I mean, the fact that he came from such a problematic institution, he's probably going to bring a lot of those philosophies here, and because Baylor's never really learned from that. In fact, they've just spent more time covering that stuff up.
I'm going to say something in what you said. 30 seconds, how do you feel about that?
Well, I just feel like I have always disagreed with the subsidies, but some small amount of money that is spent for sewage and keeping the lights on and keeping the streets clean and basically doing city services around the stadiums and stuff is appropriate when they're doing negotiations and stuff like that. But to put taxpayers on the hook for this stuff, this is every economist from whatever school of thought it comes from knows that these stadium deals are just like pyramids. They don't make any sense whatsoever.
So anybody who lives in Charlotte now knows that native Charlottelians who are Panther fans, Charlottelians
is like something makes like a reptile.
Native Charlottelians.
We're the Greys.
Native charlatans, which is promoted March.
People that lived here.
People who live in Charlotte.
Bless your heart.
Native Queen Cityers. They have before the Panthers came around, most of their families are either Washington fans, Dallas fans, or Atlanta fans. Because those were the big teams that had markets that they could see. Washington was the very first team to televise on WBTV, so most of those family. So they now love the Panthers because they have a home team. Yeah. But many of them have really, the Panthers Panther fans aren't as loyal to the Panthers like Packer fans or Giants fans or Cowboys fans.
But to be fair, the Panthers in the grand scheme of things haven't been around that long compared to Dallas or Packers or Giants that have a long storied history.
So my point is, by doing something like this, I think what he did, the new owner, has really made it very difficult for even the most ardent football fan, the Viles who supports everything, wants to give all our money away, the Smudgy Mitchell who wants to support everything he can get free tickets to, and the Larkin and all those guys who really are doing it for the fame and whatever. It's put them in a very difficult position now to spend any more money or to even ask for money for a new stadium. Because how can you ask taxpayers like Matthew Ridenhour, who, this is one thing I think we probably would agree on, how can you ask us to finance, our portion would be about $800-900 million of taxpayer money to build a new stadium the way he wants? How can you ask us when you obviously have enough money to pay this guy $70 billion? So you obviously have the money, so how can you ask us for that money? But to your point, and then we have to close out, you and I, and some people understand, I don't know if you would understand this, marginalized communities that have been marginalized by people who are Bible thumpers. Growing up in Texas, we kind of know how that is. There's these buzzwords and these code words that people say that automatically raises up red flags for someone like me, and you can speak for yourself and maybe yourself. Whenever someone tells me, and this is what I saw, the new coach is a really good Christian, and he's going to be a better Christian than Ron Rivera was. All right. When that is the when that is a statement, I get scared.
Yeah.
Because that has often been used for people like me to say, I'm going to hell and something's wrong with me.
Well, and it has nothing to do with the job. So
and this is the person that is coming in.
Let's take the LGBT status out of it for a second.
Yes.
Coaching a football team and being a good Christian have nothing to do with each other.
It does.
I mean,
Tebow,
yeah.
all these people that they have
marginally
that
good
small following.
quarterback.
But does that scare you when that is what they're saying? That is the Panther media people are spinning that.
Well, it's probably
This
the
guy-
only thing that they have that they can hang their hat on is that, you know, this coach that came from Rape University is now going to be a good Christian here. And I'm going, y'all turned a blind eye for a decade as over 200 male athletes raped co-eds.
Yeah.
And then tried to cover it up and then got busted for it. This guy's coming from that university. I mean, Baylor University is slimy as hell.
Yeah.
I mean, when you cover that up, and so now we got him here, I'm going, that's the kind of culture he's going to bring in too, under the guise of being good Christian.
Exactly.
And
that's what makes me so. Not only am I upset that they hired someone outside of the NFL, but I'm also if that they're not saying, oh, this is a great coach. Yes,
he's not that good.
So we got to wrap up. Anything you want to say?
Well, I don't really follow football or Christianity that closely, so I don't have a dog in the fight. But I do think when you're saying things about universities that's probably a little unfair, especially when you compare it to say something like Auburn, you know, where you know they had the scandal where all these you know, all these poor guys that are studying, you know, they're allegedly in college and they're all sort of funneled into this public administration class where they're not really getting an education, you know. So I think that's the scandal.
No, that's there's a lot of what is your word? There's a lot
upper
of
education.
Chicanery and tomfoolery and fuckery.
And fuckery. There's a lot of fuckery.
Fuckery's my favorite one, but
those who remember, Cam Newton's dad was trying to sell him to Mississippi State. Before he went to Auburn.
Oh, they shot the hell out of him, unfortunately.
And Mississippi State said, no, we're not going to pay it. And then he decided to go to Auburn instead. He didn't get in trouble because Cam said, it wasn't me, it's my dad.
Yeah.
So I can't control what my dad did.
Yeah.
So Cam Newton himself comes from that word that you use. All right. So Ruth Perez says, just stopping by to say hi, y'all. She's on break. Hey, Ruth, we really missed you in this conversation. And I'm curious to know what we're going to talk about next week. We have some guests lined up as well. Now, yes, we do.
Well,
we need to.
There's primaries. You know, there's primaries. So we've only got like 5 or 6 shows before
less
primaries.
than 7 weeks before the primary.
Oh, I know.
So
we got like 6 shows before the early voting starts. Like in less than 3 shows. Wow. So listen, everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. It's a beautiful day outside in Charlotte. We're going to have a warm spell of about 10 days of 50 to 60 degree weather. So please clean your gutters. Very important. Gutter cleaning is very, very important. Wash your mouth out with soap and all that kind of stuff. So
remember, clean your gutters. Impeach the president.
Impeach the president. This is the second time we haven't read the Constitution quote of the week. Don't forget to read your Constitution like it's your Bible. So please remember to read that. I'm going to take this off. We're going to put Amazon Music. Tell us where we're going to be. Tell us where you are. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. We have a new camera. And then next week, we'll have a new sound system.
That's fantastic.
Wow, we're uptown now.
Moving on up.
Moving on.
All right. So let me start. Alexa, play Amazon Music.
Here's a playlist you might like. In Excess and More on Amazon Music.
All right. Hey, that's good enough.
Well, just to wrap it up, over the next couple weeks, I'm going to be in a lot of planning sessions for Charlotte Pride. We start early and start often, and so that's going to occupy a lot of my time in January, is getting that rolling. We have our film festival in May 9th. Mark your calendars if you're local. We had over 1,000 guests come through in the 8 nights that we ran our film festival last year, and it's a really good, professionally done one.
That's great. Well, I saw In Excess in the early 90s. They were very good. They were very great. Poor Michael Hutchins was another musician who died from disappointing circumstances.
How politely
anyway, I don't know where I'm going to be. I'm trying to take advantage of the beautiful weather outside and maybe be out on the bicycle, maybe looking for music, maybe looking for a good protest against the Iranian conflict.
Yes.
So thank you so much for watching today, and we'll hopefully have some candidates on in the next couple weeks. And next week we'll have an episode of Wired and Tired and trying to get Alan Smith from the Greens over there having their meeting this weekend. If you want to go to a Green Party meeting, if you want to support third parties, the Greens are meeting on Sunday. Okay?
The Greens are meeting. All right.
Okay.